Hi, my name is Diego.chicas. I'm going to talk about the detail that I chose from the Canterbury and Tales. The one I'm going to talk about would be the Knight's Tale. And it basically started with three people going to the themes. One of them was Theseus, the other was his wife. He was the Amazonian queen, Hippolyta, and her sister, that was Emily. So they were going to Athens. In the way, they find some women. They were wearing black. They were kind of begging, they were crying, they were really sad. Um, and they wanted to know what was going on there. So they approached this woman, the oldest of this woman, kind of explaining what was going on. The thing was like this guy. His name was Creon. Um, he kind of conquered. Well, he had like kind of a big battle in which they conquered like the kingdom of Thebes, and during this battle, a lot of people died. So basically, they were asking for help because Creon doesn't want to burn the bodies of the soldiers that died in that in that conflict. And this event was kind of Theseus get mad about this. He doesn't like the attitude of Creon, so he promised like he will send some soldiers to fight against Creon for revenge, and he does it. He sends like some soldiers to Thebes to fight against Creon, and during this battle, they took two prisoners. They were really like kind of injured, but they were not actually dead. The names of these guys were um, Polemon and Arcetate. These guys were actually friends or cousins, and they took it to Athens, and they sentenced the Theseus sentenced them to live like all their life in prison. Um, the years happened. They were in this prison. This kind of tower, it has a window that where they can see kind of the garden, one garden, and one day they saw a beautiful, beautiful girl, and this girl was Emily. She was there on the garden just picking flowers, and this guy, both of them, they get in love with her. They get in love with her, and like this was everything started like the conflict started. And when I'm saying the conflict, because they knew that if they wanted to get the love of this woman, it just could be just one of them to could marry Emily. So one was saying that he saw it first, the other was saying that he loved her. He actually loved Emily more than the other guy, and like their friendship started to crumble. Everything started to break down, and the years pass, the time passed, and one of these days, it arrived to Athene one duke, and his name was Perotheus. That um, he actually knew Arcetate, and this guy asked to Theseus to please to free Arcetate from prison. And at first, Arcetate was like kind of doubted about it, but at the end, um, he kind of agreed, but with one condition. The condition was like if Arcite get freed from like the like his sentence, he will never will come back to Athena again. And he like accept this, but he always was thinking about Emily during like all like when he moved to a different kingdom, to a different place. He was there, but he was always thinking about Emily. So the years passed, maybe to 1 to 2 years. It passed, and one day he actually got a dream. In that dream, one of the goddess was like telling him to go back to Athene to fight for the love of Emily. So he does it. He goes back and he like kind of get a job to get close to Emily, and he get a job like kind of being a servant for Emily. And even Theseus kind of like this new guy that was a servant. He didn't knew that this was Arcetate. He just think that was another servant that he was really good in serve Emily. Um, one of those days, Palamon was actually thinking to escape from prison, and he does it. And he does it because one of his friends helped to get out of prison. When he was trying to get away of that king, he listened to the voice of his ex-friend, um, Arcetate. He was like kind of on a horse, and Palamon like he was hiding, and he listened how Arcetate was like saying, he was like speaking to himself, and how he can get the love of Emily. So during that moment, Palamon kind of confront him, and they both have a discussion about it. And at the end, like they decide to come back the next day and fight for the love of Emily to death. So the next day they came to the same place, but they were like all armor, and they started fighting. During that fight, like that fight get interrupted by three people. But Theseus, Hippolyta, and Emily, they were kind of in a hound. Um, but like they see this battle, they approach this battle, they wanted to see what's going on there, and at the during that moment, Palamon and Arcite, they like told them who they were. They were knights, they were the prisoners, and they were fighting for the love of Emily. And Theseus, at first, he wanted to sentence them to death, but Hippolyta and Emily like asked Theseus for mercy for these guys. And Theseus just like think about it. He just like trying to think about what he could do during the moment. And the thing like he decided to do was for the next date, both of them have to like get 100 men to fight in a battle, and the winner of that battle would get the hand of Emily, would be could marry Emily, would get her love. So they were like both agree, and they moved to different places to get their mans. But actually, they both of them visit like different temples to ask for help to the gods. Um, Archetype actually visit the temple of Mars, the god of war, and Mars. Um, okay, Archetype he was asking for the victory in the battle, and Mars actually say you will get the victory. And Palamon, he went to the temple of Venus, the goddess of love. He was asking to marry Emily because he wanted her love. And actually, Emily was also praying. He was praying to the goddess of chastity, of purity, because he wanted to marry a man that actually loved her. He doesn't want to marry like any guy that will be just fight for her and he would take her. He want a man that loves her, really, really loves her. So it was this kind of conflict, and for then the gods were kind of fighting to each other because each of the gods wanted to help these different guys, and Mercury was actually there to like make them to think about it, what was going to happen. So he decided like Mars could help Arsotape, Venus could help Palamon, and the other goddess could help Emily. So during the next day, the battle like start. Both men have 100 knights. Then they start to battle. During that battle, um, Palamon like he get injured by a wounded sword, and Theseus proclaimed Arsotape as the winner. But something happened, an earthquake. During that moment, an earthquake happened, and the horse like get scared, and it fell. It fell with Arsotape, and Arsotape get pretty injured about it. So he was injured death, and at the very end, um, he has he actually tell Emily to marry Palamon because he knew that Palamon loved her. So he like tell Emily to marry him because he was the man that deserved her, and she actually does because at the very end, um, Arsote he died, but he get an heroic funeral, and Emily with Palamon they get married, and they get what they deserve because Palamon actually prayed for the love of Emily. Emily prayed for a man that really loved her, and Palamon doesn't. And Archetype, it actually just prayed to be the winner, and he actually, yeah, he was the winner of the battle. He got the victory because Theseus proclaimed him as the winner, but at the end he died. And how this is how everything ends. Um, and the other question was about who are the main characters. The main characters were actually Theseus, Emily, um, Arcite, Palamon, and we can say even Hippolyta could be one of the main characters because they are involved in this. Um, the protagonist, flaws or witness, I would say like one of the witness that the protagonists have, like maybe would be like they don't think about things. I mean, they don't think twice before do something. They are always thinking about battle. There is nothing more in their heads, just thinking about like getting involved in a fight and things like this. Maybe there will be like different ways to approach to these women that they love. Maybe there will be another way to decide um, who be like kind of the one that could marry Emily, but they don't think about it. They just like react in the moment. I would think that would be one of the witnesses, the main witnesses. And the setting context is this actually happened in the kingdom of Athens, but I would be like kind of the setting of everything would be in a competition because they are competing all the time for the love of Emily. And how does the setting affect the plot? Well, as I said before, everything happened during during a competition. They will all the time trying to fight to know who will be the winner to get the Emily's love. And I think that this affect the plot because everything is like around that kind of around battles, around fights, everything to get the love of a woman. It actually happened during these times that there would be a lot of nights, a lot of battles going on, um, a lot of people like dying, and maybe one of the big like prizes, like prize that you can get would be like a woman, the love of a woman. Um, and the other will be the symbolism. Um, I would say like some of the symbolism that will represent this would be like the status on the temples, because each of these like god and goddess will try to help a different person, but at the very end they actually did. They give them what they deserve, what they were asking for. And each of these represent different aspect of each character. For example, Arcite was actually praying for the love, for the help of the god of war, and at the end he died, but he get the victory. um Palamon was praying for Venus, the goddess of love, and he at the end got the love, all the woman that he loves. And Emily was praying for like the goddess of castity, and he was actually wanted to get a man who really loves her. And Palamon one was he was that guy. He actually really loves her. So I think that there will be some of the symbolisms that are in that tale. And last question: how does this story reflect the context in which it is written? I think we're reflecting because it talks about a lot about battles. Like I said before, it talks a lot about battles, and during these times, the battles was a common thing. There will be history stories of knights, and there are things like they do to be heroic, and also these tales. It tells a lot about that, like the the people or the knights that died, that were explained that they died in the very beginning of the tale because of the battles. So during this time, the time like this tale was written, because of the battles, they were surrounded uh, with a lot of death, and these tales represent the battles, represent the conflicts, represent the death. And actually it gives an important point, like they see like they can win a woman, the loves of a woman, just based it on a battle. They don't think about different things to approach to the woman, but just base it on a fight, because they like to fight, they want to battle, and they think that it will be the only option to get what they wanted. So I think that that will be all for me. Thank you.